trigger warning, of content warning. I didn't really learn that I had worth until I was maybe 34 or 35 and divorcing my ex-husband.
Been through the pages of my old journals, with every turn another memory.
Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Journaling Through the Years. This is episode 65. I am Leah Liz, and this is a series on this channel where I read from journals that I've written in since I've been old enough to hold a pencil. We're in sophomore year, and I was looking through getting ready for this episode, and I noticed that it jumps around a little bit as far as dates, so I think that I would write something. I think it was also a school book, at least in the early part, because we're in May, so we're going into summer between sophomore and junior year. And I think what's interesting is that I think that I would skip a few pages and write something, and then there is actually a poem here later on that the friend that went after my boyfriend after he broke up with me and didn't think it was a problem, that friend actually wrote something before he and I broke up, obviously when we were still friends, but then it comes after the journal, the sad, I wrote something in a state of depression. So we're gonna start with a nice little poem. I don't know who it's by. At the time it was by unknown, but I will find out who it's written by and put it right here. After a while, you learn the subtle difference between holding a hand and chaining a soul. And you learn that love doesn't mean leaning and company doesn't mean security. And you begin to learn that kisses aren't contracts and presents aren't promises. And you begin to accept your defeats with your head up and eyes open, with the grace of a woman, not the grief of a child. I was a child then, 16? And learn to build your roads today, because tomorrow's ground is uncertain, for plans and futures have a way of falling down in mid-flight. After a while, you learn that even sunshine burns if you get too much. So you plant your garden and decorate your own soul instead of waiting for someone to bring you flowers. And you learn you really can endure, that you really are strong, and you really do have worth. And you learn and learn. With every goodbye you learn. So every time I would have a heartbreak, I actually, that's one of the poems that I would turn to since I wrote it here in this journal sophomore year. And back then, really before the internet, or before you could really know anything, it probably had been passed around and no one known who had wrote it. And now if you go, like, after a while, like, Google it, the name of the woman will come up, and I'll have that somewhere. I love that. I love that you learn and you grow. And it's interesting because when I'd written this, and when this girl is about to have a heartache that leads to her first real big depression and suicidal ideation, trigger warning, of content warning, I didn't really learn that I had worth until I was maybe 34 or 35 and divorcing my ex-husband. And then still I didn't really discover it because I was still struggling with my codependency and relationship addictions when it came to even the partner I'm with now, and friendships with unhealthy people. And I'm going to pull this out because I'm afraid that I'm going to trigger some people's vertigo or something. So, but I need to forgive myself that this 15-year-old girl 16-year-old girl, 17-year-old girl didn't understand in her first or second heartbreak and her first bout with real depression, didn't get the full meaning until that 45-year-old me has now. because life is a process and we're all on our own journeys and our own timetables, and there's no rushing the lessons to be learned. They just have to come when they come. But I find it very interesting that I was always in the immense pain that I was in. And maybe this is why I'm such a good writer and a creator and an artist, is I, from a young age, had this inner desire to know, and this almost like I was an old soul when I was young. And I still am. I mean, an old soul doesn't suddenly become young. But I was an old soul because I think I was carrying a lot of weight and pain and didn't know what to do with it. And so within that oldness of my soul, I was very much a seeker and a philosopher. And I had friends that I would talk to. Like, I wasn't hanging out with the cheerleaders or I was hanging out with more of the hippies and people like that at this time point, or the writers. I have friends that were also writers and artists. We didn't have a theater department at my high school, and if so, whenever we had a theater class offered, I was part of it. And I took theater after school, like in after school during the summer camps and after school classes and such. But so I think that I would have, if I had it more available, that would have been my group. But so people that were more I don't want to say depth at it, because jocks get a bad reputation for being not intelligent, but I knew jocks in my high school, and I wouldn't say they weren't they were stupid. They were, I can think of them, they were very intelligent people. My class in particular was probably like the ones with the highest of IQ, and we were the biggest ever at the time to graduate, and we were also just high IQ, high intelligent. Like, the majority of us were in advanced placement classes, and we also got in trouble a lot because our brains they had to invent classes and courses for us to keep us entertained, or we would act out. Not necessarily me, but I am grouping myself within that class now, because why not? We're old. Okay, that got upset. I'm just saying that the jocks in my school, being that it was a small school, everybody was kind of into everything in a sense, so they weren't stupid. But I didn't necessarily hang out with that type of person, the mean girls. Like, I'm thinking of the movie The Mean Girls, that mentality. I wasn't hanging out with that type. I was into something more quieter. Definitely partying at times, but a lot quieter, into musicals and theater and just philosophy, because you could see here, so I'm writing poems in my own journal. So here's one. Sometimes I feel life is full of goodbyes, changes in my heart, changes in my soul, happens every fleeting moment. Every fleeting moment. Wow, so I'm just changing like that, just boom, boom, boom. Not trying to waste precious time, just hanging on to what I've got today. Now, I think what is going on is that Bad A is moving away. Bad A would basically, at this time period, right before school ended, I think. I don't even think she finished the school year. She ran off to Chico with her boyfriend. He was like 21 or 22. And then, basically I never saw her again after that. And so I think I was my heartache was coming from the fact that my friend just left. There was no Facebook or social media at this time, so once they were out, you could call, you could write a letter, but calling was crazy long distance. And so if you think what you always thought, you'll always get what you always got. And that was by a person with the initials TG, a freshman at the time. She was kind of, at this point, kind of a little skater chick. Never say never, never say always. That was the wisdom of Bad A. So I'm gonna see this starts out, and I'm thinking let's see, it's talk about somebody leaving. So I don't know if it's Bad A or if it's Princess Bride Boy. It's May 19th, 1995. The day before yesterday, you left me, feeling empty, or feeling lonely, empty, and brokenhearted. Seems like this always happens. Seems like I always say goodbye. Sometimes I feel as if life is full of goodbyes. Once I'm used to something, that's the time I have to leave. Maybe I'm just feeling sorry for myself. That seems like somebody might have said that to me. Or you're just feeling sorry for yourself. Just get over it. Kind of minimizing my emotions. Never a good thing. Looking at the bad instead of the good. See, like, and that might have been another thing. Just look at the good in life. A life is full of goodbyes. I guess you have to be happy with what you've got today. Hold on to it now. Let it go when it must go. Nothing shall always be with you. Nothing you do can ever make you hold on to someone forever. Well, that's good advice. Nothing will ever be with you longer than a memory. So now I stand alone with the rain pouring down all over my wet, naked body. I'm just naked. Mixing with my salty tears, wondering why it had to come to this, wondering why you had to leave me. I look up into the vast gray sky, think to myself, a prayer. I'm not religious at this point. A prayer, not for God's ears, not for anyone's ears, but his. Okay, so this was for a Princess Bride Boy. I whisper, I love you, dear one. I love you always. Thunder rolls in the faraway distance, taking my love with it. I look down, stare straight ahead. Stare straight away, head my way home. I think it's interesting that I remember when he called to break up with me. I feel like it was in the morning, but I do also remember talking to him in the night and having a meltdown and like jumping out my window, like crying, and everybody like woke up in the house and crying and running out my window, like climbing out my window. I was gonna go to his house like 2 cities over, and it had been rainy and muddy, and I slipped and my dad ran out. I was like running in the grass and he like ran out to stop me, and then I didn't have to go to school that day, and I think, or the next day. So I don't know if he necessarily had broken up with me yet or was just trying to break up with me, because then I do remember a Saturday, like a couple, like, yes, I think there was like kind of a long drawn out breakup, because I remember before we officially broke up, I was trying to get him to like me again and to be with me, and I went to his house and we sort of completed consummated the relationship, but he wasn't really, it didn't happen. So I was really like clinging and needy, and this was like begging, because I was hurting, and I think that I was hearing from a lot of outside sources, just, you know, stop feeling sorry for yourself, or like, this is how life is, you know, let it go, look to the good, not the bad. So this sense of minimizing emotion, like, I think I think this is something that was done in my life growing up, and then I think just in the society a lot, minimizing one's emotions. I think if I had learned to sit with my emotions as I have now, I might have been able to work through them and had them validated, you know, had them said, okay, you're sad, you're hurting, this is a heartbreak. You know, not minimized or not told to just get over it. But I think that I was writing all those things that people had been saying to me, you know, nothing will be with you longer, you know, just focus on the good, you know, stop feeling sorry for yourself, that kind of thing. Like that is a minimizer of emotion that was very damaging to me, henceforth after I wrote this. And the last thing I'm going to leave you with is, this must have been right after the official breakup, and when Princess Bride Boy, and I don't even know what to call her, the bad friend, the ex-best friend, the never best friend. It was June 26, 1995, and this is a content warning for depression. I feel, and there's a star here, so I don't know if I was going to show this. Like, I knew that around this time I did go see a therapist for a while, and then I also got to see my psychiatrist who had put me on Ritalin for ADHD a year before, which I was talking about some time ago. We were misusing, and I was put on Prozac around that same time, and so I think I was showing this to that therapist that I saw for a very short period of time back then, and just to say, like, this is like something to highlight what I was going through. And then I also want to point out that in addition to having the boyfriend break up with me, and then the devastation of having the not best friend, the never best friend, like date him like an hour later and not even consider another person, not considering my emotions. I mean, I called her crying, like, he broke up with me, and she was like, I need his number because he promised I need to get something from him. Like, okay, you can get something if you need something from him, or you can ask me to get it, or ask another friend, but your friend is crying, and so all you can think about is, oh, he's single, so that was a never best friend. But at the same time, my other best friend, the bad A, was leaving my life, choosing to go off with her 20-something boyfriend to live in Chico. And so there were big changes for me. I was forming new friendships, but there was big changes, and I wasn't being validated for these sense of losses. So I think that's really another reason why I was feeling feeling so low, and so, kind of such an ending to things, because I had these big losses for a young person that had never really had that. And looking back, I can remember that there were people around me that I'm grateful for that basically kept me alive. I wasn't able to fully see. Do you hear that? That's my cat. Come here. I was never able to fully see then that they were doing that, but I am grateful for them. So, June 26, 1995. I feel as if I am drowning. The water pulls me down. My body is a heavy weight. Could I possibly disregard it and let it sink to the deep bottom? I cannot, for my body is I, and I am my body. My stomach tightens. I am fearful. I reach out to hold your hand, yet you do not reach back. I know I am the reason for scaring you away, and I would do anything to have you back. I need your friendship. I don't know how I shall go on with these feelings in my heart and these memories in my head. I struggle with my arms, paddling fiercely to keep my head above water. My troubles and heart pull me down to my doom of despair. I try always to reach up, yet it becomes harder and harder. It's all I can do not to fall. So a couple things are happening there. I love that description of depression, of just being pulled down with this weight that I can't, and I'm just like being so heavy that you can't stay afloat, and life is so hard. I also want to point out that this boy probably said I scared him away, but he was most likely, as bad A was, and probably never best friend was, kind of. Unfortunately and unfortunately, it took me this long to see it, and until like 2019 to get rid of those types of people in my life. But the type of person that uses mind games, and these three people that were leaving me at age 16, 17, I think it was about 17 in this time, were saying, you're scaring me away, but they were probably, especially Princess Bride Boy, were probably like beep 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 beep, or aggravating me until I did something, and then, oh look, you scared me away, look, you're crazy. And so minimizing me, making me to blame. I also want to say that I'm trying, even without any help. I am trying my best to reach up, to not to keep my head above water, even with all that weight. And I think that is telling in all of my life, across everything I've been through, now realizing the lifelong PTSD, the lifelong trauma issues, the bipolar, the depression, everything that would come through my life, the lack of emotional support in many ways. I am a strong person, and like the poem we read in the beginning, every time I was hurt, every time I went through some kind of hardship, I learned from it, and I got even stronger than I even knew I was at the time. And I was able to, when I think no one else was really helping me do it, I was able to, even through the weight and the heaviness of my own self, keep myself afloat. And I think I don't want to negate the people that were in my life and have been in my life for many, many years that I've always known are there, even if they are far, far away. I'm grateful for that, because for many years I didn't see it, but just their presence there in my life, and you know who you are, and just being there, an email, a Facebook, or whatever, a phone call away, I think kept me alive. So I'm not negating that. I think that was very special, and that wholesome love and presence in my life was also supportive of me being able to lift myself up when I felt like I couldn't. So I'm going to leave you at that. I'll see you next week. Bye.